Welcome, everyone, to the 6th episode of our 3rd season of The Bracket Report, a production of Delphi Bracketology, sponsored by Coca-Cola Bottling of Kokomo. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. Joining me today are Dave Gilbert and senior editor Cade Nelson. You can follow all of our work at DelphiBracketology.com and also follow us on Twitter at the handle @DelphiBrackets. And we'll begin this week with our State of Indiana report. Dave, big Purdue guy, share some information about the Boilermakers.
All right, Purdue split their 2 games last week. They defeated Iowa at home, lost at Northwestern on Sunday to lose their number 1 ranking overall. They still sit at 23-3 overall with a 12-3 record in the conference, but that conference lead is quickly dwindling. They have a big game at Maryland this week.
And your Indiana Hoosiers are on a roll, winning 8 of 9, including Rutgers at home and a barn burner at Michigan, which both of those were quad 1 wins, and Indiana is moving up the seed list quickly, at least a 5, maybe even a 4 seed for the Indiana Hoosiers. Cade?
For Indiana State, they're 18-9 overall and 11-5 in the conference. They won their last game on the road over Northern Iowa, 80-62. So, they haven't been doing much recently. But Ball State is 18-7 overall and 9-3 in the conference, winning their last game as well at home over Bowling Green with a score of 93-72. So they're going to have to win the conference tournament.
So both of those teams are teams to watch. They're fun teams, winning basketball. We hope they win their conference tournament. That would be great to see some more Indiana teams in the tournament. But as always, we're going to talk now about teams moving up and teams moving down our bracket. Cade, you have the first one.
My first team moving up the bracket is Baylor. Recently, they are 9-1 with 5 of those wins being at home. They're 1 game off of first in their conference as well. They have nice wins over UCLA, Kansas, and Gonzaga, that Kansas game being one of the more recent wins that they have. And their net has improved to 11. So over that 10-game stretch there, they weren't playing against really the hardest teams, but they were able to, get a wide margin of victory, which was able to improve their offensive and defensive efficiencies. So that really bumped their net up, which kind of put them in contention for the 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah, they're quickly moving up our seed line. Another team moving up, Dave?
My team is Creighton. Creighton had some injuries early in the season, got off to a really slow start, but they are getting back to full strength. They've run off 8 wins in a row, including wins over Connecticut, Providence, and Xavier in that stretch. They have their record up to 17-8 right now and are looking pretty good in the bracket.
They're one of the teams that we like to see win. They lost 6 in a row, and then they got a star player back, and you wondered, where do they belong? Well, they're winning, and the winning helps move them up to at least a 6 or maybe a 5 seed, where they probably should be if they hadn't had those losses. For me, it is Miami of Florida. Keep your eye on Miami, Florida. Last night they went into Chapel Hill and beat a really good, maybe good North Carolina team. They are 20-5, winners of their last 5, including wins over Duke, Clemson, and North Carolina. They are currently on our 5 seed line. Could be considered for the 4 seed line, but they are definitely moving up. But if we have teams moving up, fellas, we got some teams that are moving down. Cade, who do you have on the downward slide?
My team moving down this week is Duke. They're 4-4 in their last 8 games, and in those last 8 games, they've lost every single game on the road. So their road record is 2-6, and those 2 wins that they have on the road are against quad 3 teams. So they're not very quality, but they still are on the road, which is good. And they're 2-7 in quad 1. So obviously that's not what you want to see. And with a 31 net, their resume is similar to teams like Auburn, Michigan State, and Nevada. And even those teams might have better road wins and more quad 1 wins that, might change the community's view on Duke. Although their resume still is strong, there are definitely some weak points that might be able to move them down.
We were talking, we have to definitely make sure that we don't see the name Duke and inflate their resume and put them at a seed line that they don't deserve. We currently have them as a 7, but they might be an 8 or a 9 seed. Dave, who's moving down for you?
I'm keeping it in the ACC with the Duke-North Carolina rivalry. I have North Carolina moving down. They've lost 4 out of their last 5 games, including last night's loss at home to Miami. And they are currently 0-8 in the Quad 1. They do not have a single Quad 1 win. Their only win over a team possibly in the tournament is a win over NC State at home. So right now they just don't have the wins to be in the bracket. Now they have a couple opportunities coming up, but right now it would be hard to put them in the bracket.
Yeah, well, they are in our first 4 out right now and don't deserve – I mean, how can you put a team in that doesn't have any wins against the top quad that the committee looks at? And, again, there's another name brand, number 1 team to start the season, currently on the way out. And that leads me to another blue blood that is struggling. It's Kentucky. They lost to Georgia over the weekend on the road, and that was a quad 2 loss, so it's not devastating. But they're just on the cut line with an overall record of 16-9 and only 1 win in quad 1. And that is a nice win. That's a win over Tennessee on the road, even at Tennessee. So I think that keeps them in. A lot of people are clamoring to have the Wildcats out of the bracket, but we have them as the next to last team in. We'll talk about that on the bubble talk in the second segment. But, yeah, Kentucky is falling fast, and they have a few opportunities this week at Mississippi State and Tennessee, and they're going to need those to stay in that bracket. But the bubble, guys, is a mess. We've talked about it this week. We'll try to sort it out after the break, so stick with us here on the Bracket Report.
For the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, you need a managed Wi-Fi service with advanced Blast Wi-Fi. Blast Wi-Fi systems provide ultimate coverage, ultimate performance, and ultimate power all the time. Available from Mulberry Telecommunications, Blast Wi-Fi systems feature the latest Wi-Fi 6 technology and are equipped with unrivaled bandwidth and 4 times more simultaneous connections so you can connect tons of devices throughout your home with no lag and no downtime. Plus, with 24/7 support and remote troubleshooting, you can rest assured that Mulberry Telecommunications is always here to help you should any issues arise. It's the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, and it's a blast. Blast Wi-Fi is now included with Mulberry Telecommunications fiber internet packages. Contact Mulberry Telecommunications at 296-2885 today to get started.
Throw it up for Tillman. Whoa, my goodness. 122.60 for Penn.
What a swim! Six of them.
Welcome back to the Bracket Report. We are now going to talk about our top 4 seeds first and quick, but then we're going to spend a lot of time on the bubble. Those are the teams that are just in or just out of our bracket. So quickly, we'll take a look at each person here. We'll take a look at someone in these top 16. But we have Alabama now as the new number 1 overall seed, followed by Purdue, Kansas, and Houston on the 1 seed line. Our 2 seed line, Arizona, Texas, Baylor, and UCLA. Texas lost last night on the road to Texas Tech. Baylor won. There might be some movement within that seed line, but we believe that is going to stay that way for the next bracket that we put out. 3 seed line, Tennessee, Virginia, UConn, and Kansas State. And then our 4 seed line would be Iowa State, Gonzaga, Indiana, and Xavier. Dave, what stands out in these top 4 seeds that you're watching here going forward?
I'm taking a look at Arizona, a team that we've had throughout the year for consideration for a 1 seed. They had a tough loss this week at Stanford, so that's kind of keeping them out of that 1 picture. But they have a good net. They're at 10 in the net. They're 9-3 on the road and neutral sites, which is good. And they have a lot of just big non-conference wins. They beat Tennessee. They beat Indiana. They beat Creighton. They beat San Diego State. So they really did a good job of scheduling in the non-conference. Their conference, though, the Pac-12, is pretty weak. Those losses against Washington State and Stanford really stick out, and they don't have a lot of opportunities for those big quad 1 wins, so they're going to have to bank on those non-conference wins to boost their status.
Cade, what team in the top 16 you like to talk about?
Today I'd like to talk about Iowa State, and for me this team it's not a bad team. They have some really nice wins over Kansas, Texas, and Baylor, in which those wins were at home. With their home record is 12-1, so they're cleaning up teams at home. But what's funny to me for Iowa State is what I want to see the committee do with them. In the 8 or 9 seed range down in the bracket, the committee tends to look at non-conference strength of schedule and road record, and Iowa State doesn't really have the strongest of those two. Their non-conference strength of schedule is 100, and they're 2-6 on the road. So and they haven't when they're not improving in those ranks. I think it'll be interesting to see how the committee balances out their judgment for a top 4 seed team or a 8 seed team.
Yeah, and we've talked about there might be some different criteria. You know, the top 6 seeds are basically wins, and then we've really struggled at seeds 7 through 11 in our bracketology group the last 3 times we've turned in a bracket. So we're really trying to fix our ways a little bit and try to figure out what does the committee actually look at. And that's where Cade's coming with that sometimes later in the bracket, other things stand out more than just wins. So we haven't nailed that down quite yet. For me, it's Tennessee and UConn, 2 teams with great nets. Tennessee has a 3 net overall, and Connecticut has a 9 seed net, not seed. And so are they a 3 seed or a 4 seed? They've lost a lot of games in the middle for UConn. Recently, Tennessee has really been on a downturn. But we try to eliminate that recency bias and look at body of work. We think Tennessee deserves consideration for the wins they had before this last 4-game, lull. So we have Tennessee and UConn on the 3 seed line, but maybe resume-wise they're on the 4 seed line. We're going to keep eye on that. But here's what is interesting. This Saturday, the NCAA committee will give a preview of their first 4 seed lines. I think it's Saturday at 12:30. So we'll compare what we have as of Friday, our last change, and see what the committee has Saturday and try to learn what this committee values. Some of those things Cade was talking about, at least for the top 4 seeds. So look for that Saturday. If you're at home, you want to tune in. I think that's on CBS at 12:30. You'll get a picture of what the NCAA committee really is thinking. So now let's go to the bubble. It's a mess. We have about 12 teams for 6 spots, and you can make a case for everyone being in and for every team being out of the tournament. So our last 6 teams in: Boise State, Texas A&M, New Mexico, Mississippi State's a new entry in, Kentucky, who we talked about before, and USC. If the committee made their selection now, those teams would be 11 seeds, and the last 4, New Mexico, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and USC, would play in Dayton in a play-in game. Cade, who do you want to take a look at on that list?
I'll go ahead and take a look at Boise State just to eliminate them off the bubble. I think to me, their resume doesn't really say safely in, but their net at 27 says safely in to me. There's never been a team with a 20 net outside of the bracket. So with their solid net and a decent amount of road wins, they have a couple bad losses, but I don't think, out of the history of the bracket, if a team has a 20 net and they've never been out, I don't see how now that they can keep that going.
Do you think that we should even move them up higher, possibly?
No, I don't think they should be higher just because the wins or strength of schedule doesn't really support that. But I don't really think they should be lower.
2-3 in quad 1, 5-1 in quad 2 with a quad 3 and a quad 4 loss. 172 strength of schedule in non-conference. Those would drag them down. But I do think Boise State's a 10 or 11 seed. I like what you have there. Dave, what team on the bubble catches your eye?
I'm going to take a look at Texas A&M. They have a really good net at 34. They also have 2 wins over Auburn, a win over Missouri. So that's 3 wins against teams that are in the bracket. Their non-conference strength of schedule isn't very good at 257. They do have a couple quad 4 losses, but I think those wins over the teams in the field and that net at 34 help keep them in the tournament and in the bracket.
So for me, I'm gonna share Mississippi State. They're new to our bracket. They've moved up. The thing that catches my eye, if I were on the committee and talking and wanting to vote for Mississippi State, they have a win against Marquette, a top 5 seed, neutral. They've beaten Arkansas, which is seeded higher than them. They've beaten Missouri, who also is a 7-8 seed. So they have 3 wins against the field. They also beat TCU. I just saw that down here at the bottom of our screen. So they have 4 wins against the field. I think that might get you in compared to what North Carolina and some of the other teams that we've talked about. The things holding them back is their non-conference strength of schedule was 230, and they really don't have any bad losses. So Mississippi State is a team that was new to us here the last week or so that we're really looking. And Mississippi State plays Kentucky this week, and so you're really going to take the winner of that will be a little more safe in that bubble. So let me ask you, we've seen a variety of teams be placed in. Last year, Rutgers had a lot of good wins with the 77 net and a lot of bad losses, and they still got in. Notre Dame gets in with only 2 quad 1 wins, and I think they only had 2 very small amount of quad 2 wins, but they were in a conference that didn't have a lot of good teams, and I think the committee awarded them because of Cade's stat, the non-conference schedule. So we had 2 different teams in the last 4 last year from the committee. How are you going to look at that when you make your suggestions for our group? What do you look at in that last 4? What is the main thing that you're going to make a decision for us going forward in what teams should be in? Dave, we'll start with you.
I like to look at wins and who you've beaten. If you have a couple wins over teams that are in the tournament, I would put you in because you've shown the ability to beat some of those top teams, and you could, get hot, make a run in the tournament. So I like to look at the wins and quality of wins.
And Cade, what are you going to look at when we have to make these decisions on these last few teams in?
Yeah, I would say, like you said, my stat is kind of the non-conference strength of schedule. So I would look at that, but I try to look at everything. Like I don't, if a team has 2 quad 4 losses, that's a bad stat. You don't want to see that. So I try to not let those quad 4 losses get outshined by a 40 net or anything like that. I try to really take the whole body of work. If we can take the whole body of work with the top 4 seeds, I think we should take the whole body of work with the bottom 4 teams in our bracket.
We talked on the way down. We have a lot of respect for the NCAA committee. It's a difficult process to do. But one of the things is I do think the criteria shifts. When we've looked at our spreadsheets from 2019, 2021, 2022, there was no bracket in 20 because of the COVID situation. But it seems like there is one set that they look at in the top 6, and then all of a sudden they look at individual pieces a little bit more. That's what Cade's referencing. For me, I like wins. You got to win to get in. That's why we have Kentucky in and North Carolina out. Kentucky has one nice win. That's why we might want to look at Oregon. They have beaten Arizona. I think those wins matter. But Cade's non-conference strength of schedule and a good conference placement got Notre Dame in. So we're going to look at that. So let's look real quickly at the teams that are out and maybe some of the reasons why they may move in. Cade, we'll start with you. Which team would you say has the best chance of moving in right now out of North Carolina, Clemson, Wisconsin, and Oregon are our first 4 teams out?
I would say Oregon would be the team for me to move in. I know their overall record at 15-11 isn't anything great, but their strength of schedule is good, and they have 4 wins in quad 1. So that beats North Carolina and Wisconsin and Clemson. Or I'm sorry, just Clemson. But the fact that they're able to, schedule decently and take advantage of some of the quad 1 opportunities they've gotten, I think that beats out some of the wins that might even be above them in the bracket. So to me, I think Oregon is the team that moves in.
Dave, what do you think?
I'd take a look at Wisconsin. If you look at their quad 1 wins, they have 5 quad 1 wins, including wins at Marquette and at Iowa. So you got quality road wins. And so that really would look like a 5 or 6 seed resume-wise. But then you look at that net, and they're only at 80 in the net. And so that's what's really keeping them out. So if they can get their net up, can win a few more games down the stretch, get that net up to the 70s or maybe even to the 60s, they have the wins to be in. The road record and the strength of schedule is solid as well. That net is what's dragging them down.
So we've taken a little bit of what Dave says and a little bit of what Cade says, and our other members are very close to that. But the 3 top teams in our list of teams out all have great non-conference schedules. They scheduled tough. They went and played tough. They might not have all of the criteria. And then we go to Dave's criteria, and you got Wisconsin and Clemson who've had the wins. So we have teams for that last couple spots where the committee always seems to surprise us. We think we have identified some of them. If it's schedule and conference issues, it might be North Carolina or Oregon. Wisconsin's got the best of both, so that might be the team that really does move in. They have a great non-conference schedule and some key wins, and they've got the number of wins. But it's always tough getting down. We missed 2 teams last year, and that hurt our overall score. We missed out on Rutgers and Notre Dame, And that's why we're talking. There's wins with Rutgers, and there was, strength of schedule and overall conference play with Notre Dame. We're trying to identify them to be better this week. But it is a mess. It is difficult because any of those teams mentioned, we could flip a coin and move teams in and out, and we're not sure which way the committee is going to go. But there will be a lot of important games played this week and the remaining 4 weeks before Selection Sunday, and we'll try to keep an eye on that and help you understand that bubble. But now we'll take a break, so come back with us, and we'll talk about the Big Ten.
Ball here. Harris scores. With 19 seconds left. Fake players, big boy. I'm telling you right now, that's awesome. I love it. Oh! Here's the finish. You get a layup taken, and an and one. Fly ball. Out of here.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
You are watching the Bracket Report, a production of Delphi Bracketology, sponsored by Coca-Cola Bottling of Kokomo. It's now time for our weekly Big Ten talk. We are in the state of Indiana. We love the Big Ten. Purdue, number 1 seed. Indiana is either a 4 or a 5 seed, depending on where you have them. And then you have Illinois, Rutgers, probably on the 6th seed line. You have Iowa and Michigan State, either a 7 or an 8. Northwestern probably, and Maryland, 8 or 9 seeds. And we say 8 or 9 because we're going to make a decision later today or put out our bracket later today. We'll definitively have those choices made at DelphiBracketology.com. Wisconsin is currently out. Penn State is out. Michigan is out, and Ohio State is probably their goose is cooked. Sorry, Cade. No, that's your team, but now they're 11 and 14. But we have difficulty seeding teams a lot. We have an Arkansas team that is interesting to seed. They've been ranked, which really doesn't make a difference in the NCAA committee, but a lot of people think they're really good. Their net is 23. Their overall record is 17 and 8. And so there's some flaws on their schedule, on their resume. And so are they a 7, 8, 9? Dave, your thoughts about that team sheet that we're looking at here with Arkansas?
Well, like you said, it's hard to see them with that net is solid at 23. That would have them up as a, top 5, 6 seed. But if you look at the resume, they only have 2 quad 1 wins, San Diego State and Kentucky, who we've talked about, is kind of on the bubble. They have beaten Texas A&M and Missouri, a couple other teams that we've talked about in the tournament. They just don't have a lot of wins against, quality teams in the field. But they have that net that's really good at 23. They've also had some injuries. Their best player's been out. So how do you factor that into the equation as well when this committee seeds them?
Cade, your thoughts on Arkansas?
Yeah, I think I agree on everything that Gilby just said. Looking at their net compared to their road wins and their quad 1 wins, it doesn't really balance out. Their resume looks like a team that's on the bubble, but their net says that they're, a 4 seed or something crazy like that. And to me, I just think Arkansas, based off of, whatever their ranking says, to be in the bracket, you have to win games, and not just win the games that are non-conference games at the very beginning of the season that gets your record to be undefeated, that no one really looks at later on in March. Because, Arkansas, I like their net, and their net has been good because of early on in the season. But there definitely is an argument to move them down because they're not able to win on the road and they haven't taken advantage of the quad 1 opportunities.
So on a team sheet that the NCAA committee has, they have some result-based metrics which look at their record. They have some predictive metrics that look at how they play, the offense and defensive efficiency. And Arkansas rates out really well. So in the bracket world over the 9 years we've done this, it's always been wins, 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 wins. And then the net and some of these metrics being on the team sheet, I do think it influences the committee. 18 in BPI, Arkansas, 23 in Ken Palm, 24 in the Sagarin rankings. Those are all 5 or 6 seed rankings. They're schedule-based, 17 and 39. So we had Arkansas at 10 going into our meeting Monday. We talked about this, about the metrics being better than their resume, and we've moved Arkansas up to an 8. And so that's, we would like to have them down to 9 or 10 if we were the committee, but we do believe that committee likes those resume metrics. So it's that time of the week where we're going to tell you what games to watch. We have quite a few games that are outstanding. Cade, we'll start with you. What games do you think our followers should tune into this week?
Yeah, I think the first game you should tune into is Marquette's game tomorrow at 7 at home against Xavier. And then they also play on the road against Creighton, but that'll be further on the line. I think that this win against Xavier would give them a very solid quad 1 win. And then for Xavier, it would be just another nice quad 1 win that could be able to move them up. And it's a very close game in seed line, so this might be the deciding factor when you might be able to flip a team.
Dave, who are you watching? What game are you watching this week?
I'm taking a look at the SEC tomorrow night, Wednesday night. Alabama at Tennessee. You have 2 top 10 teams. This is the first time Alabama has been ranked number 1 in 20 years. At number 10, Tennessee. Tennessee, we've mentioned earlier in the show, they're struggling a little bit lately. This would be a big win for them, help hold their seed line or maybe boost their seed line. Alabama just took over the number 1 overall seed for us, so this would, obviously help them keep hold of that number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, that's an outstanding game to watch, and Tennessee's got Kentucky then on the weekend, so Tennessee needs to right the ship quickly or they'll keep falling in our seed line. For me, Kansas Baylor, 4 o'clock on Saturday, potential game for a 1 seed line. Both teams are outstanding in the Big 12. Both teams might be deserving. In fact, last year they both were number 1 seeds, and it might be pushing for that again. But Baylor's already won once, I believe. If they win again, I see Baylor jumping Kansas and going to the 1 seed line. So 4 o'clock Saturday, that is a game to tune in and watch high-quality basketball in the Big 12 Conference. But that'll do it for this episode of the Bracket Report. Thanks to ISC Sports Network and all the guys here helping us with the show. Again, thanks to Coca-Cola Bottling of Kokomo. Please contact us on Twitter at Delphi Brackets, and we'll try to answer your questions. And then follow us on our website, delphibracketology.com, for more. Tonight we'll have a seed list and a bracket out. We try to do that every Tuesday and Friday, and we'll try to put out a few more articles as well. But I'm Brian Tonsoni for Dave Gilbert and Cade Nelson. We thank you for watching, and until next week, may your favorite team win games, win those quad 1 and 2 games, and win them on the road.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app.